So I'm like, you know what? My sisters kind of pushed me towards doing hair. They're like, just go to hair school. Then after that, I was like, all right, it's like 25 grand. You know, it's manageable.
How'd you pay for that? Loan?
Financial, yeah, financial loans and stuff
Okay.
like that. So,
Yeah, yeah.
or financial aid. So they helped me out a lot with everything, and it was like a half split. Like I'll pay half and they'll pay half type of thing.
Oh,
So I was
okay.
paying monthly for it, and that's how I got into hair school.
So, why did your sisters tell you that though? Do you think just because they knew you, or just because they knew that it would make good money, or?
I think more so because they knew that it would make good money. They were like, even if you wanted to pursue something else, this
Right.
could always be a backbone. Like it could always be a cushion for you to like
Right.
support yourself. You know what I mean? 'Cause
Yeah.
everybody's always going to want a haircut, and that's when my barber told me to go to cosmetology school instead of barber school because so I could be more diverse with hair.
So, cosmetology school, for the people that don't know, takes a little bit longer, or is it harder to
It's
get?
about the same. It's
Okay.
about 1,800 hours, so a solid full year of just going.
Yeah.
And you just learn more stuff with like women's hair, nails, and facial like.
So you
products and
just
stuff like that.
like your scope of practice, you can just do more.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So without having like the licensing to like, you know, like barbers, they can't do certain things that we can. But now this is a whole different game now. So,
Right.
Because they combine both of those industries together now. So
Oh, so it's the same
yeah, that's
Okay.
why a lot of people were like bashing it a while, like 2 years ago.
because they had to do all the extra work.
Yeah.
Okay. So you graduate cosmetology school. What's next?
For me, I had to take state boards, and that was like a big thing because I hated taking tests. Granted, I was pretty smart, but it was just like,
You were good in school?
yeah, I was pretty good at school.
Okay.
And then, I mean, there's a long story behind that, but I was good until like my dad passed away and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I honestly I didn't care about school at all. So
That was in high school? Or?
yeah, that was pretty much going into high school.
Okay.
It was like that because I was 14 when he passed away.
So that was just like super heavy, and you just didn't really care about much after that.
Nah, I didn't care like to even try a lot harder because he was gone. I was really close to my dad, so.
So how was going through cosmetology school? Was that easy, or was that the same as high school, or harder?
It was easy. I will say that it made my like social skills a lot better because I had no choice but to talk to clients and I had no choice but to talk to like the people around me and stuff like that, and just to
Right.
get help from different people. Kind of opened up my eyes to just to be a little bit more open towards like opportunities and stuff like that.
Yeah. So you got through cosmetology school, and then you're about to take state boards, and you were nervous, or?
I was nervous. It took me. I'm not gonna lie. Like I was doing like a lot of private appointments. Like I built a solid clientele in school, so I would
Dang,
drive
just
to,
from
like,
doing just from in school.
yeah,
So.
yeah, because like nobody wanted to do men's haircuts, so everybody pushed all those haircuts to me.
Wow.
And then I still have some clientele that I still have from school till this day.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, almost 10 years ago. Yeah, it's kind of nuts, honestly.
That is crazy.
So after that, yeah, it took me like 3 months for me to even take my state board exam because I was like nervous. I was just pushing it off. I'm like, man.
Oh,
I
you
don't
just
know.
like weren't doing it. Like it's not like okay.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know why. I don't know what it was, but I was like, nah, I have all my clients. I could just cut hair on the side. And then I still try to figure out if I wanted to do that full time or not.
Right.
And I think I was doing a little soul searching. So that's kind of where I fell through with that. So,
Okay. So then you pulled the trigger.
yep,
You
pulled the
take it.
trigger.
What happened?
I passed my practical and I failed my written. It was like different portions because if you missed 25 questions, you pretty much failed.
Right.
So it's like, and there was like 10 questions that they give you that was like freebies. So I'm like, damn, I'm kind of stupid. Like for real, I was like, damn, I just didn't study. I didn't even study at all. Like
Yeah.
nothing. I was like, nah, I could wing this. I'm gonna just go in and do it. And then afterwards, I was like, damn, I failed. I can't get my license. I have to wait a month. So
Oh, you gotta wait a month to retake it.
Yeah.
And you have to retake just the written part?
yeah,
or?
just the written part.
Okay.
That was it, which was cool. So I was like, I passed my practical with like a 90 or something like that.
Okay. And
So
then,
that was easy. And then I went back in and I passed with flying colors. It was really easy. I was like, damn, I should have just studied,
Yeah.
you know, so.
studied the first time.
Exactly. So I was like, damn, I should have, you know, so.
So right after you get your license, you're just cutting men's hair now? Or?
Yeah. So I was doing a mixture of both. I was cutting men's and women's.
Okay.
And it was more so like the clientele base that I built off of that was just through word of mouth more than anything because social
Really?
media wasn't really around.
Wasn't really
as
popping
big.
like that.
Exactly. And I will say that like about social media, it did blow up our industry a lot. Like
You said it did?
yeah, for sure. It made six figures reachable, a lot more reachable than grinding for 5-10 years. You know what I mean?
Even for you specifically?
Yes, I will say even for me specifically, like because after I finished hair, like I was still doing a lot of private appointments and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, I don't know where I really wanted to work at. So I was like, I'm still making good money. I was still making like, I mean, it was good for me at the time.
Just cutting hair from your house or
yeah,
what?
cutting hair from my house and just traveling around to like different people just to go cut their hair.
So like no matter where you're at in life, you can always like make some money.
Exactly. So for me, I was like, you know what? It was a numbers game at this point. I'm like, all I need to make is $4,000 a month.
Right.
If I do $1,000 a week, I'm cool with that. At the time, I was like, 22 at the time.
Yeah.
So like I had to make sure I was doing a certain amount of clientele per week to hit that threshold for me. And
so since you weren't really doing a ton of like outreach and like advertising and stuff like that, and you built it organically, how did you make sure you hit that number?
Man, what I did was I passed out, like I made business cards for myself, and I would just go up to random people and I'm like, hey, I'll give you a free cut if you come check me out. You know what I mean?
Dang.
It was like I would go to the mall, I would go wherever, you know what I mean?
And how many people really cash that out? Like,
so I calculated I would pass out 100 business cards a month, and I only need 10 people from 100, and usually
to stay consistent.
To stay consistently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I would say like the first time I was doing it, I only got like 5, and I'm like, all right, well that's better than nothing.
But did you do a ton of free cuts?
I did. So like the first haircut that I did was always free, that I passed out my business card to. I'm like, just check me out. You know what I mean?
Did you keep track? They had a way of keeping track of who you passed it to and stuff like that, or there was like, when you come see me, show me the card and stuff like that?
Exactly. I was just tell them to show me the card, and they have my number too, so they'll contact me that way.
Oh, okay.
And then next thing you know, I just kind of built my clientele from that. And then after that, I decided to go to Dublin. That's when I went to go to a shop in Dublin. I don't know what pushed me towards that. I think it was more because it was like the luxury side of men's grooming and stuff like that.
So you knew it was just like a nicer area, more money.
Yeah, more money. Granted, you have to hustle a little bit harder because you start from the bottom. Like
you were working for someone else at this point?
Yeah, I was working for someone else at this point. So I knew that I was only taking 50% of what I was making home, which is it's a rough. It's like you have to really like grind to hit a certain threshold with that.
Yeah. So how did you make sense of coming from like where you're cutting hair at your house or wherever, even at their house, and you're taking 100% of the cut?
Yeah.
To going back to like 50% and working at a place?
My biggest thing with that was time management, because I felt like with me like cutting at my house or even going around like cutting people, like it took a lot of time. So I'll work 10-12 hours a day, and I'm like, man, I don't really have a lot of time for myself. So with a structured goal for like working at a salon, you have that structure. So I needed a little bit more structure in my life at that point.
Okay.
So that's why I went to the shop in Dublin, which is called Modern Male, by the way. They're great.
Okay.
So.
How much were you charging when you were just doing it by yourself?
I was charging 40. So when people came to my place, I started at 30, and then I will say that when I was traveling to people's places, I was charging $50 a haircut. So I'm like, just because of time, and then time for me to go there, and obviously gas. So like I applied all that together, and then they're like, yo, they were cool with that. Had a lot of clients that were fine with that.
Dang,
which
crazy.
It's kind of surprising.
That was kind of high, right?
Yeah, it was definitely high. I would say this was back in what, 2013, 2014?
Yeah, before people were really like
catching on to like the like men's grooming and stuff like that. People want to look good for themselves, want to feel better, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So how did you have trouble asking that price to people, or?
At first, yes, it was really hard. I'm like, man, that's kind of expensive, even for me. Like, I was thinking at it from like, the other side. I'm like, it's kind of pricey, but they're willing to pay because they like the convenience and they like the time that they, we always talked about random stuff. So it's just, like I said, it comes back to building that connection with those people.
Oh, okay.
So that's how it happened.
So you're like charging 30. I know when girls go get their nails done, they don't even know what the price is sometimes until they leave, and that's like a lot of the time. Yeah. Like for you just told them up front, this is what it is, and okay.
And that's excluding tips and stuff like that. So.
Right. So how much were they charging at the salon you're working at in Dublin?
So the first like 6 months I was charging $38 for a haircut.
Okay, and the prices were set by you, or they were?
Nah, it was set by them. Okay. So I'm like, all right, well I have to like grind to like build my clientele there. And I don't know. It was weird. Like it was just a different demographic. So I didn't know how I'd fit in that like area.
Yeah.
And then honestly, I was just being myself, and everyone loved it. So I just built this crazy clientele base out there, and then it took a year. So like the first year, I only made like 45,000. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
And it wasn't really that much. So I was still grinding.
But
on the
how
side.
many days were you working?
I was working only 5 days a week. So 5 days a week,
okay.
40 hours a day, or 40 hours a week.
That's not bad. Yeah.
But I was still grinding on the side. I still had my side clients that I went to.
Oh, okay. So you were just filling your time up.
Exactly. So I would say that year, like even from the side money that I made, probably roughly close to 70,000 that I made total. So then after that, I noticed that it was like a numbers game after that. I'm like, man, I have to have this amount of clientele for me to hit this number. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then after that, I just started hustling more. And I remember the second year working at the place in Dublin, I'm like, shit, I'm like hitting almost close to 70,000. You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like base.
Yeah, base. Yeah.
Okay. So
like,
that was when you're working at the salon, that was your second year after you got your license, or was that the first year?
That was the second year after I got my license.
Second year. So the whole first year you were just doing it solo, trying to like just run it yourself.
Yep.
Okay. So then you work for them. So between all that experience, like where did you feel like what helped you the most just building your clientele and stuff?
I'm not gonna lie, like the owner of that shop, granted, there were some things that that we did disagree on, but she was actually a really good like mentor, to be honest. She did help me pave a wave for me to charge the price that I charge.
Okay.
Just for like the services that I provided, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she just kind of showed me like the way, like, hey, if you do it like this and you make them feel good, give them a hot towel, you do everything that you can to make them feel great about themselves, they're willing to pay whatever.
Yeah.
And
so she said that it's not about the price, it's about what you give them.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then after that, I took that into account. I'm like, all right. So next thing you know, we upped my price to $45. 45. Is it $45 or $48? It wasn't $50 yet.
Yeah.
And then I realized, I'm like, damn, I'm actually making a lot more, So I would say the third or fourth year working in there, I was making close to probably 80. Dang. 80 or 90.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm under the impression that barbers are just like constantly grinding for like, I mean, I guess because it's so close to the nail industry, and I know a lot of nail techs, and that's just how it is. They'll be working like 6 days a week, like sometimes 10 to 7 or 8 or 9 o'clock. And a lot of them aren't even breaking 50 a year.
Damn, that's crazy. That's crazy to think about.
Yeah, unless you're like doing really good with clientele, but I guess were you just super intentional about it?
Yeah, I was really like, I made everything.
I'm trying to build clientele. That's it.
Exactly. And then like when I was doing that, like I told you, it just comes back into like building connections. I'd have these people see me weekly, every 2 weeks, and I'm like, man, I'm cutting about 350 people a month. You know what I mean? And I'm like, that is a lot of people.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it was insane.
Yeah. So you're doing what, like 30-minute haircuts? Or?
Yeah, it was 30-minute haircuts. So like, it was crazy. Since she knew how fast I was and how good I was, we would do like, sometimes I'd fit 3 people in an hour.
That's crazy.
It was a lot. Like, bro, every single day I was doing at least 16 to 18 haircuts a day.
That is insane. What's average?
So average, I would say right now, average there was like 8 to 10. So I was doing like double of that.
Okay.
So I'm like, that's the only way I can make 6 figures.
How did you feel like you could take the time down without like giving up value or making them feel like they got rushed out the chair? Like,
so with me there, it was crazy. Like I told you, like we built this connection and they knew that I was about like obviously business and stuff like that, and they understood everything. And the thing too, you have to understand from like the opposite way is that their time is valuable also. So I'm like, I don't want to push that limit to where it's over 45 minutes or less than 30 minutes. So it always had to hit about 30 minutes. Okay. Because I valued their time also. I'm like, I don't know if they have appointments elsewhere too.
Right.
So that was the biggest thing for me was, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't even think right now.
It's cool. So I guess just doing these 20, 30-minute haircuts, and then this is year 3, right? Year 3 after your license.
Yeah, year 3 after my license.
So what's year 4 looking like?
Year 4, I realized that for me to hit six figures, I had to value my time a little bit more and try to manage everything for myself. And with that, I told her, I was like, I wanted to up my prices to $50. So even that extra $2, it gave me a little bit of boost. You know what I mean? Because they're obviously going to tip more.
Yeah, yeah.
And at first, there was a few clients that were questioning that, but then they realized when they went to someone else that they weren't getting the same services from them as me. And I was still within that 30-minute time frame. I still gave them everything that they needed. A great cut. And granted, you're not doing the craziest haircuts in Dublin because it's pretty simple. You know, light taper on the sides, light taper on the back. But the grow out process is the biggest thing about hair. So as long as it grew out nice, they were coming back.
Oh, I see what you mean. So like, because some people can only get their hair cut, and they might want to get it cut every week because it grows out and it looks crazy.
Exactly. Already. So like, it comes with all that. Like, so for me, how I cut hair is that I'd rather have longevity within the haircut. Like, granted, you can always get a fade on the sides, but like for different type of textures, you have to make sure everything laid correctly with like the way their hair moves or like the way their hair shifted with their cowlicks and stuff like that. So everything relied on framing, and then that's kind of how I cut. And then they enjoyed it a lot, so they just kept coming back, and then they brought me more clientele, and that's kind of how
it just spread exponentially.
Exactly.
Did you spend a lot of time studying that stuff? Like outside of school?
Yes. So what I did was I went on YouTube, and there was a good amount of barbers on there that I actually liked watching because they're really, really good at like just men's grooming and just fading or just framing the hair in general. Right. So I decided to go to this class out in Miami. This was back in 2017. The academy was called Menspire, and I did a 3-day course with them, and it was great. They taught me a lot. Everything was about precision, timing, framing, and making the overall haircut just look flawless on that person's face. So everything matters, jawline, all that. Yeah. So
when was that?
This was back in February 17th, 2017.
So when you first got your license?
No, because I got my license back in 2013.
2013, okay. Yeah. So this is around year 4.
Yeah, this is around year 4. And okay. That snapped a fire inside of me that I wanted to be better than where I was at. Because I never thought that I was the best. I thought I was really good, but I was like, I need to hit other thresholds for me, you know. I can always keep improving, you know what I mean? That was the biggest thing that I took away from that. I'm like, man, there's so many talented people in this world that I just want to keep learning from them because there's so much more of that. It's not just a haircut, you know what I mean?
Right. So how much was that? It was like a seminar?
Yeah, it was like a seminar. So it was like $1,000.
Okay. So this was after you were charging 50?
Yeah, this was after I was charging 50.
Okay. And you felt a big change when you came back and started cutting again?
Yeah, I felt a huge change. I wanted to do more on social media. And that's when I started posting all my stuff on Instagram, started doing a bunch of tags. And then I brought a whole different client base to Dublin. Like there was people that was coming from New Albany, the Short North, Powell area, Canal Winchester. So
this is when people started really traveling for you.
Yeah. So I was like, damn, I didn't know I could have that effect. And I'm like, damn, let me just start posting more haircuts. Let me do this, post more videos. Next thing you know, I'm like, damn, I'm cutting 400 people a month. Yeah. And at that point, I'm like, damn, I'm already making 6 figures. You know what I mean? Yeah. So in year 4, I'm making what, 110,000 that year. Dang. And I didn't realize it was that much until I looked at how much I was spending. I was like, I never had this much money in my life. You know what I mean? And that was prior to investing, and I had an IRA and stuff like that. Yeah. But I didn't start investing until later on. You know what I mean?
Okay. So when you year 4 you hit 6 figures, right?
Yeah.
So did it feel like 6 figures?
It did not. 6 figures, it was weird. It did, but it didn't, because I was spending a lot. And because I never, like I told you, I just never had that much money. I was 26, 25, 26.
That's pretty good.